Hi, welcome to Mrs. Park's Algebra 1 class. This is lesson 5-4, solving compound inequalities. Okay, so why are we learning how to solve compound inequalities? Well, we want to ride this roller coaster, this mind eraser roller coaster at Six Flags in Baltimore, Maryland. Well, there's usually in a any kind of rides like this, there's a height restriction. For this one, you have to be at least 52 inches tall and your height cannot exceed 72 inches. So there's two restrictions here. You have to be at least 52 inches, but you can't be greater. You can't be greater than 72 inches. So if you let h represent the height of the rider, then you can write, well, h has to be greater or equal to 52. H has to be also less or equal to 72. So if we make this a compound inequality, you can put h in the middle because h is greater or equal to 52 but less than or equal to 72. All right. Inequalities containing and. All right, compound inequalities. So just like the example there, we had h is greater or equal to 52 and less or equal to 72. So when you graph this, there's going to be an overlap, and this is called the intersection. So if you were to graph these two inequalities, x is greater or equal to 3, and there's your graph, and x is less than 7, and there's your graph. If we line this graph up, then you can find where it intersects, where it's overlapping. So we know here 3, it starts with 3, it's including the 3. This part is not including the 7, so we kept that open. And this is the graph that's overlapping. So if you were to graph x is greater or equal to 7 and less than 7, greater or equal to 3 and less than 7, this is what your graph would look like. Okay. Oops. I wanted to do one more before that. There we go. Right. To solve and graph an intersection. Okay, so here is the inequality, the compound inequality. We need to solve for this for x. So there's two ways you can do it. The first part, you can solve this part over here. -2 is less or equal to x minus 3. You would add 3 to each side, and you have x is greater or equal to 1. That's one part of it. The second part of it is right here. X minus 3 is less than 4. When we solve that, you add 3 to each side and you have x is less than 7. So now we're going to combine these two. And if we graph it, you have x is greater or equal to 1 and you have x is less than 7. So the overlapping part is this section right here, including the 1 but excluding the 7. So you have x is greater or equal to 1 and less than 7. Your textbook does not show this way to do it. There's another way that I personally like to do, and I'll show you how to do that on this example. What I like to do is, instead of writing two separate sections like we just did, I like to do it all at once. So I'm going to subtract 4 here, subtract 4 here, and subtract 4 here. When we do that, you'll have your 7c in the middle. The signs are the same. Okay. And you have -3 minus 4, -7, 18 minus 4, 14. I like to do all of it at once. It just makes it easier for me and less complicated. And I'm going to divide by 7 on all sides, because now I have c by itself. -7 divided by 7, -1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. So here's my final answer. And you can do both ways. You can do the first part, and then you can do the second part, and have two separate answers and combine them later. I personally like to just do it all at once. Okay, here's another example. Wait, we just did that one. All right, now it is your turn. So go ahead and pause this video and do numbers 1 and 2. And then make sure to restart it when you're done. Make sure you write on a separate sheet of paper with your name on it clearly, and lesson 5 for number 1 and 2. All right, so welcome back. Here is the second portion of the compound inequalities. Now we have, inequalities containing or. Okay, so another type of compound inequality contains the word or. A compound inequality containing or is true if at least one of the inequalities is true. Its graph is the union of the graphs of two inequalities. All right, so you can see here they have the word or. So if you have x is greater than 2 and x is less or equal to -1, now you're going to do combining, not just overlapping, it's going to combine or. So it's going to be both of them. So you have now x is greater than 2 or x is less or equal to -1. All right, so let's solve another problem involving compound inequalities. This time it's or. Okay, so that means we're going to do these separately. So -2m plus 7 is less or equal to 13. You're going to get rid of this 7, this positive 7, by subtracting 7 on each side. That got canceled out. You have -2 is 13 minus 7 is 6. Divide by -2. Caution, negative, you're dividing by negative number. You notice the flipped sign. So now it's pointing to the other direction. And m is greater or equal to -3. Or 5m plus 12 is greater than 37. You're going to get rid of this positive 12 by subtracting 12 on each side. That canceled it out. 5m is greater than 25. Divide by 5, m is greater than 5. So this time you have m is greater or equal to -3, or m is greater than 5. Now, in this case, because the first graph will include the second graph anyway, that means your answer is not going to be 5 is greater or equal to -3 or 5 is greater than 5. Because if 5 is greater than 5, it actually is included in 5 is greater than -3. So your answer will be actually just m is greater or equal to -3. Give it a minute to process that. If that didn't make sense, repeat the video. So just because it has an or doesn't mean you're going to write this or that as an answer. Think about what makes sense. If m is greater or equal to -3, m is greater than 5, that m is greater than 5 is included in the m is greater or equal to -3. So your answer is only m is greater or equal to -3. Okay, here's your turn. Pause the video, do numbers 3 and 4. Okay, and that's all the lessons we have for today. Make sure you hand in your homework by, what's today? Tomorrow, so that's Friday. So homework is due on Friday. Thanks for watching.